Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of our MACAE member profile series, a video profile series of the members of the Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association. I'm Patrick Brown, Executive Director. A reminder that you can view this video as well as the others from our series on our YouTube channel at MACAE Professional Development. You can also view them on our social media platforms at MACAE Today, MACAE Today, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and by visiting our website at www.macae.org. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest for today, Jeff Flip, who is the director of all things community adult and alternative ed at the Lakeshore Adult Education Program on the east side of the state. So Jeff, welcome.
Patrick, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be spending some time with you and obviously some of the MACAE members this morning.
Thank you. So, Jeff, we always like to start kind of with your background and your experience and wondering about your pathway into this line of work and community adult and alternative education. We've talked a little bit about in other interviews how people start out in their educational or professional careers and don't always envision themselves in this or haven't realized that this is a place where they might end or be in. And so just tell us a little bit about your professional career and your history, your experiences, and what's led you to your position that you're in now.
Excellent question, Patrick. So this is going to be my 23rd year in education. So I'm excited to try to wrap this year up and then hopefully get closer to 30 years invested into, obviously, the whole field of education itself. So how I got in this field was that, 23 years ago or 22 years ago, however you want to look at that, I started as a guidance counselor over at, I would even say Pontiac Central High School. And from there, I just kind of gravitated towards different districts because at that time, and if you remember in 2008, like when the housing crisis kind of happened, it was very difficult to find a job or even maintain a job in education. But I was lucky enough to kind of land on my feet over in Lakeshore. And from that point, I would say the next 20 years, I've been in this district as a counselor, more or anything like that. And then what had happened is 4 years ago, based upon my kind of like my experience as a guidance counselor and my, kind of like expertise in kind of helping deal with, emotions and me knowing administration, me finishing my PhD, an opportunity came to apply for a position of administration over here. And I am so sorry, Patrick. 1 second. That is the phone. I apologize for that.
The call of duty never stops.
Yes,
Jeff.
I am so sorry. 1 second. I apologize.
It's okay. So Jeff, tell us, we just got a great phone call, which just shows that how integral and important you are within the district. So many things happening, and we appreciate you taking the time this morning. So tell us a little bit about your journey. You're telling us that you started out as a guidance counselor and then kind of transitioned into this administrative role.
Yeah, so the position opened up, and what the position opened up as, and they never did this before, was that they connected the principal of the alternative school, which is in the district, along with being the director for adult education. So in the past, what had happened was this position was split up into two full-time positions. And obviously, they saw the opportunity to consolidate both roles into doing that together. So when I applied for this position, I had the intention of obviously just becoming the director. And then what tacked along with that was becoming the principal of an alternative high school. And so that is how I got here. Really, I learned so much because not only was I never an administrator before about learning about how to deal with K through 12 stuff, but now I am a director of adult ed, which is a completely different world that I've never heard about or never even understood. I didn't even know what function codes were or anything of that nature. Obviously language that I am very familiar with now. But I mean, from that point forward in my position, they identified as the director of special programming. So both those, titles kind of, combined itself together, being the principal of an alternative ed building and then the director of adult education. So that's how I'm here. And that's how I'm affiliated with adult ed. There are days I can tell you where I'm concentrating more on adult ed. There are days I can tell you where I'm concentrating more on obviously being a principal. That call was just about being a principal. So, again, it never stops. It's constant movement affiliated with this position.
Something I hear in your story, Jeff, is just starting out in your career is really understanding the students and the learners that you work with and walking with them on their own educational pathway, finding what works the best for them. And I think that that's, as you kind of talking about your story, that just kind of rises up to me as a skill that you have in some place that I think probably it was so important for the district to invest in is in someone that understands that trajectory, especially with students who have not necessarily maybe been successful in a quote unquote traditional pathway. And so just having that understanding as a leader and as a director and a principal, I think is just a really great skill set that you have. And obviously it has served you well in your positions of leadership. So
Great
thank
comment,
you.
Patrick. Again, I just want to make mention of that. Life kind of seems to happen for all our adult participants and even my alternative students, and many times when life happens, there are things out of their control. So by the time they get here, we're just trying to create some stabilization for them so that they can understand that there's a lot of people here still willing to invest into you if you're willing to invest in yourself.
Yes. What do you find kind of the most rewarding part of of maybe each separately or each together? I mean, when we talk about running an alternative school and then directing and running an adult education program, those are two full-time jobs. And
Absolutely.
so you have a
100%.
great you have a great responsibility on your shoulders. So what, and I want to underscore that because I think that's important for people to understand because it, and also in many spaces and districts you're doing that really kind of in a silo just because it's not a similar position maybe to another position. The administrative roles for K-12 might be a little different. They might look a little different. The responsibilities are a little different. The hours are a little different. Could you just talk about, what are some of the most rewarding parts of this job that you really found very valuable?
Sure. Again, another great question. But the end of the day, what I really just want to see is people have success. That's really what it comes down to. And when I took on both of these positions, my goal was to not make things like, to maintain good programming. In addition to that, to try to improve on things that I think are going to help students benefit, whether or not they're adult ed learners or whether or not they're alternative education learners. At the end of the day, when they succeed based upon different things that I've kind of implemented, that's just powerful to me, honestly. When programs are growing, I think that's a telltale sign that you're doing something well. And right now, this year alone in this high school, I mean, it's just increased with the student population. I mean, COVID did a number on so many learners. So what I see here, more than anything like that, again, is student success based upon some of the programming that we've done. Same thing with our adult ed program. And when one of the programs we have is our ESL program. And my first year here compared to what it is now, the number of participants has almost doubled. So it's just remarkable to see that. And again, I don't know if it's related to COVID or whatever the case may be, but students are seeking education at a lot more frequent rate than they have been when I started this position. I think that's just how it is, and it's just good to be part of that. And then you're putting something together that they seem to really be flourishing in or they're growing in, then you're doing something right. And that to me is the most important thing.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a wise vision, and I so
Yeah,
appreciate that you're sharing that with us. So,
sure.
tell us a little bit about your program, your adult ed and alternative ed programs. How big are they? What is kind of your rigor of programming looking like this year? Your staff size, all of those kind of facets of your programming. Tell us a little bit about it as if no one understood or is familiar with the type of programming that you deliver.
Absolutely. So we'll start with about the adult ed program. Over there, I run a GED program. We also have an ESL program. In addition to that, there's a community enrichment that is part of our programming that falls underneath there. I'm also in charge of summer school that kind of like it puts itself in that direction then too. So all year round, that is the one thing too, Patrick, that I didn't make mention of that I had to adjust right away. So in a normal guidance counselor slash teacher role, I was done in June. I didn't really think about what to do in the summertime, but in this administrator role, I'm here all year round. So that was a huge adjustment. Let's put it like that. But going back to the programming, we also have a very close relationship with the Michigan Works locations here in Macomb County. So with our position, we house the five locations in Macomb County and St. Clair County. So, we are the fiscal agent to that grant. So that alone is a ton of program that we do. I mean, this building is constantly opening in regards to like making sure that we're running programming in and out all day long, even on the weekends, because our community enrichment is there and thriving more than anything like that. The high school, which is the alternative ed building, we are located in St. Clair Shores. So in St. Clair Shores, there are three different districts that really kind of feed into my school. We start with South Lake, Lakeview, and then Lake Shore. Now we're associated with the Lake Shore district. That's the reason why we're called Lake Shore Adult Community Education. But more than anything like that, there are all the Shore students come here in case they're not succeeding in a traditional school. In addition to that, why his program has been growing is, like, as I made mention of, is that other neighboring districts have been sending our students over here, just based on word of mouth and the growing number of our program here. So over the adult ed, I have about maybe, honestly, like 5 staff members, somewhere around there, 5 to 10, depending on the programming that we do. And then in addition to that, over here at the high school, I have somewhere between, honestly, like 6 to 20, depending on the situation that we have going on.
Quite a robust team that I'm
Yeah,
sure is when we got your call earlier, it's like you trust in that those other individuals can help manage those situations and crisis, so you can step back and do opportunities like this, right?
absolutely.
So it sounds like you do a little bit of everything. This is a curious question, and I apologize if I didn't ask you this before, but do you know how long the program's been in existence? I'm just curious always about that too, because I think that that's, a rough, I didn't ask you that before, but kind of like a rough ballpark, like 30 years, 40 years.
So I was born, not to disclose too much personal information for me, but I was born in 1979. You can do the math how old I am, but this program was in existence prior to that, I believe. So I think it started in the early 70s. Let's put it like that. There was a person named, I think, Clarence Burns. That is exactly what his name is. There's a Clarence Burns Scholarship because he founded adult community education in our district. So from that point forward, it's been in existence, I believe, early 70s. So
Yeah.
again, well before I was born. So this program has been thriving since that point. But I believe 70s, if not 80s, somewhere around there. I do have some people here. They don't necessarily remember working with him, but they do remember the name. And they also remember the stories behind the leader at that particular point, which again was Clarence Burns, and how he revolutionized, especially in the Shores area, how adult ed looked like going forward.
You shared a little bit about just being responsive, not only to the times. You mentioned the pandemic, which
Yeah.
obviously upended everything, every aspect of our lives for at some point, right? You mentioned kind of having a direction for where programming is going based on the population of learners that you're serving. But you also mentioned, kind of this vision of the district and what, the outcomes are as it relates to student achievement and career workforce readiness. You talked about that partnership, especially
Yeah.
on the adult education side with the Michigan Work System. Where do you see kind of the vision for you, for your team, and for the program going forward? And then I'll add a comment on where I have heard some of your vision shared with what today you've been sharing, but where do you see that over the next few years?
So I see it growing. Again, I don't mean to be a dead horse or anything like that, but that's really what it comes down to. Let me just take a small reference of what I'm doing right now. So in the high school, that's probably the most relevant way to kind of give you a idea of what we're looking at. So the program is growing. That's really what it comes down to. And for better or worse, it's going to grow. And again, in the high school, we are having our upcoming semester going to take place, right before the count day, things like that. Our second semester will be beginning over here at the high school. And I've been interviewing students before they come to this alternative program to try to figure out what's going on. And Einstein said it best, insanity is to do the same thing over and expect different results. So in the pandemic learning, what has happened is that it seems like some of these students just did not put a lot of effort in some of the online learning that took place, but that's not going to go away either. Some of the students prefer the online learning. So it's about finding balance for the students and trying to change it up so they become more academically successful to try to achieve the goals. And that's applicable to the adult ed learners and the high school learners. But for example, I've been talking to some not counselors, but students when they try to interview here, and I look at a transcript and they don't have any credit. And what had happened over the last 2 years, and that's concerning because there are a lot of mental health things, or a lot of effort things, just life, like I said. And for them to try to change something up and trust other people to try to do it, it's a lot of vulnerability that they share, and they're willing to invest with us. We're willing to invest with them. So how I see programming happening is that it's going to continue to grow. You're going to get continuously these people that are trying to adjust for life after the pandemic, and really try to be more academically successful and try to build that foundation. And that's what we've been trying to do in regards to both programs. And the district also, they've been doing a great job with that. In general, it's that, again, helping them transition to be more successful. And you're seeing a lot of the benefits of them coming back in person and then trying to gain stability of what it looked like prior to the pandemic.
I think one of the takeaways as I've been doing these interviews, Jeff, is that these programs like yours, are so important to the community, and communities that don't have that type of programming want that and need that. And it has been especially expressed through the pandemic. Wouldn't it be great if we had a program that did this? And then districts and communities that have a program in existence, we've also learned, weren't familiar that there was a program like this that was happening, because it's not, always something that's flashy. It's not always a type of programming that, just is people are familiar with. And so I'm so glad that as a part of this, you're getting the opportunity to talk about your programs, talk about what it does for the community,
Sure.
and just also talk about, what it means to the district. I mean, because you're really benefiting entire families in some way, from early childhood all the way through adult skill building. And that's a really valuable asset to the community in your program. And hopefully, as we share this out, more people will be able to understand about your program and what it means to the greater Lakeshore community, and see that investment as really important. So thank you for sharing that. Well, anything else? What else are you looking forward to, as you kind of go ahead? You have been a little busy this last few months in your personal life, you were sharing earlier, but what else are you looking forward to, as you continue forward?
You made mention of that, Patrick, already, so I'm going to lead into this. Recently I had my son was born. I'm super excited about that. This is my first child. Me and my partner, she's just wonderful too. We're excited, and as I was talking to you about the lack of sleep that I'm getting, obviously, as and within the first month that he's been born, it's all beneficial, and in every single tough situation, I apply this to my professional life. I apply this to my personal life. Situations can get tough, but I'm grateful for tough situations, because what happens is that I learn a lot from those situations, and my emotions, I try to check that. And for the greater good, I try to grow from all of just understanding what frustration could look like, understanding what happiness could look like, but you get different perspectives no matter what the situation is. But in every situation, again, I just fall back on how grateful I am to be in the situation. Let me put it like this. I mean, just to know the personal journey that I've been on for, even when I started this position all the way now, it's just awesome. I won't trade it for anything in the world. And for me, even professionally, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, is it always easy peasy with rainbows and sunshines all the time? Absolutely not. No way. I mean, it's snowing right now. I wish I could be in 80-degree weather, but more than anything, I'm so happy. I'm just grateful. I'm just thankful for everything. And whether it be happiness or pain, I'm grateful for all that, because again, I'm learning. And if I can learn something, I know I'm not stagnant, I'm not comfortable, then I'm growing as an individual. And to me, that's the most important piece, because if I'm not growing, I'm not really living. Let's put it like that.
We're so grateful for you, Jeff, and your leadership and what you bring to not only the district and to your program, but to the association. And that's why we were telling these stories, is so people get to know one another and can hear their stories.
Yeah.
So as we come to the end, you mentioned this about gratitude, but is there anything like a mantra or a quote or a saying or anything that kind of grounds you and leads you. You mentioned that every day is not sunshine and rainbows. And so what are things that you either remind yourself or kind of gravitate towards in those difficult days to, and even in the good days too? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Absolutely. And before I close this and give you this answer, I'm very thankful for you too, Patrick. I mean, honestly, you were one of the first people that I met in adult ed the second I got this position. So for you to put all this together, and this is great. You're growing the adult ed programs all across the state. I think that's just something remarkable. You and Tammy always put a very good job together with, sending all this forward. So that's just awesome. Now, with that being said, day by day, that's really what it comes down to. That's really what I try to do. I try to live in this mantra of saying, like, the past has already happened. You can't live there. If I constantly live in the past, I'm always going to be depressed and sad. If I'm constantly worrying about what tomorrow can bring and just not knowing at all, then I'm always going to be in this state of anxiety. If I live in the here and now, if I just survive day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, I'm living at the most peaceful time that I could possibly be. So I'm calm, I'm in the here and now. And I think that's a simple philosophy to live by. Not too much in the past, because that could be sad. Not too much in the future, because I can be anxious, but really being present and being in the here and now and try to survive the here and now. I think that's the most peace that I could find, and just, be the most state of calm that I could possibly be.
I think we need to have you come be a keynote, Jeff, at one of
No.
our meetings.
I don't know about that, Patrick, but hey, just, these are some philosophies that I live by. They haven't done me wrong yet. So, day by day.
Gratitude day by day. I like it. That's a great vision to have. So, well, thank you for taking time with us today. It's been so great to hear. I know that this is just a little snippet of your whole story, but we appreciate you sharing it and your time. And just thank you so much for what you bring to the profession and to the field. And we will be back again next time with another episode of our MACAE member profiles. But for now, I want to thank Dr. Jeff Lip from Lakeshore. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks again, Patrick.